Inspiring enthusiasm for yourself and your team. Because let's face it, if you don't feel enthused and engaged in work, and those around you don't feel engaged at work, it sucks. I know that. Did you know that according to a 2016 Gallup poll that almost 70% of employees are disengaged, meaning they just show up for work, putting in time, waiting for the next job to come along, or just thinking it's just like a paycheck. I know, it sucks to think about how so many people cannot be engaged in work, but that's the truth. I'm leadership development coach Kathy Archer, and what I know is that many of us are feeling that, and many of us feel it from places around us. And if we want to change that, then we need to look at doing some things differently. So what I want to talk about today are 3 levels of engagement in workplace, the 12 questions you can use to measure yours and your employees' engagement, and the number 1 strategy you can use to boost both your own and your employees' engagement. So we're going to get started with looking at the 3 different levels of engagement. So the first one is when employees are engaged. And so this is about 33% of people in workplaces. And they are those who are enthusiastic about their job. They show up to work excited. They're energized. They're proud of what they do. They brag about their employer. They tell other people to come work for them. They go above and beyond the call of duty. They go that extra mile. I can think back to times when I was crazy busy as a leader, and I had this one particular gal who would say to me, "What can I do to help you?" That was an engaged employee. She was going above and beyond the call of duty. And I'm going to just, while you are getting settled here, I'm going to pop over and share this in another group because I want to make sure that everybody's getting to do this. So if you're not involved in the Confident Women Leaders group and you perhaps are a woman leader who is looking for a little bit more support, a little bit more information, ideas on how to be a better leader, then you should come join the Confident Women Leaders group. And I will put a link below after I'm done this video today that's going to get you into that group. Because I think what's really important is that not only are you engaged, but that you engage other people. But in order to be able to do that for other people, you have to be able to do it for yourself first. So I am making sure that those ladies in my Confident Women Leaders group are getting this video as well, because that's important. So back to engagement. Again, almost 70% of people are not engaged in work. What that means is that they are just showing up for work. They're just putting in time. The 33% of employees are engaged. They're actively energized, enthusiastic about their work. They're committed. Then there's this other kind of middle ground, and this is about 50% of our employees. They are those that basically just show up. They are there putting in time, not any extra effort, enough to get by. They're that kind of mediocre crowd. They're the people who just are there. Some of them are actively looking for other work. Some of them are just kind of, keeping their eyes open because something might come along. You might see them being sort of just the unmotivated group. And again, that's about 50% of the people in organizations. And then there's that bottom chunk. About 16% of people are actively disengaged. And I know you've all seen some of these people. These are the people that are emotionally disconnected from work. They are not only unhappy, but they act out their unhappiness. They jeopardize their team. They do things like sabotage, gossip. They go out of their way to disrupt things. When I was a leader, I had people that would go behind my back and call the boss because they weren't happy with what I was doing instead of talking to me, right? Created that triangulation where, there was a person here and a person there and a person over here, and they would go and they would, stir up the pot. They would mess up things. I had staff who would file grievances even though they hadn't addressed the issue with the person that they were grieving. That's that actively disengaged group. So if you're watching live or if you're watching the replay, what I want you to do right now is make a comment in the comment box below. Are you one or two? Are you an actively engaged employee where you're excited to show up for work, or are you more disengaged? Are you one of those people who is just putting in time? Are you one of those people who is not engaged in your job? So put a comment in the comment box. A 1 if you are engaged, you're eager to show up for work every day, you love what you do, and you're proud of the place you work for. Or if you're not, if you're unengaged, disengaged, or actively disengaged is a number 2. What type of person are you? And if this is helpful information for you, if you have employees that are disengaged, or if you're feeling disengaged, or if you're finding that you want to learn how to feel better about your job, please share this right now as we're doing it live, or share it after. Share it on your page, share it in a private message, or tag somebody who could probably benefit from employee engagement. And we're going to go on to, so those are the 3 levels. I'll just review them for half a second. So you are, 33% of employees are engaged, and then there's 51 who are not engaged, and another 16 who are actively disengaged. If you are engaged, put a 1 in the comment below. If you are disengaged or actively disengaged, put a 2. So here are some of the signs of disengagement, and I think this is important because we can see it in others, and even more importantly, we can feel it in ourselves. And so as I'm going through these, think about, again, where you see it in your team or in your coworkers, or where you notice this disengagement in yourself. The lack of enthusiasm or energy, that low energy. I mean, sometimes people are lazy. Sometimes people are, they just don't work very hard. They're whatever, right? That poor attitude, the immaturity, the political stuff that goes on, the gossip, the grudges, the name calling that goes on. I often just say it's that junior high-ish or high school kind of attitude, and you see it all the time, the little snarky comments and the little sarcasm over here and the underhanded, things that happen over there. That's that poor attitude. It's the dissidence, the rebellion, the resistance. That shows up in disengaged teams and in disengaged people. So if we're looking at what are the signs of disengagement, lack of enthusiasm, poor attitude. Another one is poor work ethic. It's that mediocre quality of work. Not good enough to be stellar, but not good enough to, or not poor enough to be disciplined for it or called upon it. It's just that okay work. Signs of disengagement are also things like that they're not there. They've checked out either literally or figuratively. So you'll see things like high absenteeism. They're always sick. They use up every inch of holiday time and they stretch to get more if they can. Or that they've just sort of figuratively checked out. They're not there. They don't contribute. They shut down. They don't share their ideas. They withdrawal. They're silent, right? You've been at meetings where nobody around the room contributes, where you ask for people's opinions and ideas and they're like, yeah, I don't know. And that's all you get. That's a sign of disengagement. Long breaks. You think about lunch breaks, smoke breaks, coffee breaks. They just drag them out and they drag their feet getting back to work. They waste time. They sit on the internet playing with Facebook, online shopping, playing games, all of that stuff where they're just, mindlessly checked out. Those are those things that show that those people are disconnected. They're disengaged. So again, I want you to make a comment below, whether you're on live now or whether you're watching it after. I'll come back in and check the comments after. But when you've checked out, because we all have, let's be honest, we've all felt that time where we've checked out. When you've checked out, what is it that you do? What's the behavior that you do when you've disengaged from work? Maybe you're flipping through Facebook. Perhaps you're stretching your breaks longer than you should be. Maybe you've taken a sick day when it's not that you're sick, but you're just tired of work. What is it that you've done that has been those actions where you've checked out? And again, if you find this information helpful, please tag a friend, share it on your page. The other thing that you can do, and I'm going to again put a note when we're done this session, is you might want to join my 5-day challenge that's coming up next week. I've got a 5-day challenge going on, and it's called Conquer Your Love-Hate Relationship with Your Job. Because even though we're talking about disengagement, even though we're talking about sometimes checking out, I know that most of you actually love your job, or you did at some point in time. And what I want to make sure that people are doing is re-engaging in their job, reconnecting with their work. And that's what we're talking about today, is how do you re-engage in your job? How do you find that passion, that love, that desire to show up for work every day? And so if that's something that interests you, make sure you click the link when I'm done to join that 5-day challenge. So we've talked about the 3 different levels of engagement at work. You're either actively engaged, you're disengaged, or you're actively disengaged. And we've talked about what some of those signs are when you're actively disengaged. You're checking out, you're got a poor work ethic. So now, what are some of the signs of engagement? Well, when you're engaged, you're going the extra mile. You're enthused, you're energetic, you're excited to be there. There's, that term that we don't actually use very often in organizations anymore. You're loyal. When somebody is actively engaged at work, when they're committed, when they're connected, they are loyal. They're loyal to the company, to their boss, to their team, to those around them. And so that's one of the signs of engagement. There's passion. I mean, you'll hear them say, I love my job. I love what I do. I'm excited to be here. Yes, it's hard. Yes, it's difficult. Yes, we've had bad days, but I love what I do. That's a sign of engagement. You will see there also, and this one is interesting because, again, we know that life is not always easy. Things do not always go as planned. Things are not always simple. But in an engaged workforce, when you see engaged employees, there's a tolerance for mistakes. There's an acceptance that errors are going to happen, that people are going to fail, we're going to mess up, something's going to go wrong. And that's not the end of the world. That's an opportunity for us to maybe look at our strategies, look at the systems that we're using, look at the equipment, the resources, the connections that we have, and maybe we need to do something different. Maybe we need to look at what's happening, but that's not a bad thing. We're not going to get all in an uproar and people are going to get all their panties tied up in a knot just because something went wrong. It's, wow, now what do we need to do? So when you feel engaged, when you work in an engaged team, there's an acceptance, there's a tolerance for mistakes. So that's another really neat one that we probably don't see very often in most organizations. In most organizations, as soon as something goes wrong, the shit hits the fan, everybody's, running for cover, and somebody's pointing their finger, blaming. And that's when we become disengaged. That's when we start looking for another job. That's when we check out. That's when we head over to Facebook or a smoke break that extends for a half hour or longer. It's when we don't tolerate things, when we don't care about other people. So what I want to know is, if you think about when you are engaged in your work, when you're connected to your work, when you're enjoying what you're doing, what are you noticing that's happening for your team? What are you noticing that's happening for you? So make a comment below, again, whether you're watching live or whether you're watching the replay. What excites you about your job? Where are you engaged in your work? Where do you enjoy what you're doing? Make a comment below so that I can come back after and check in and see. And again, just a reminder, if this is helpful for you or if you think somebody else is struggling with employee engagement, either their own or the people that work for them, share this. Tag other people so that they can get this message as well. So I'm just going to review those before we jump on, and you'll hear my notes flipping so that I make sure that I get to the right one. So Gallup has done a study. They found that almost 70% of our workforce are disengaged, meaning we don't really care about a job. We show up only because it's a paycheck, and we're there simply because we are putting in time. There is this group of employees, about 30% or 33% of our employees are engaged. They're excited to be there, but the rest really aren't. And so what do we do to flip that around? Well, one of the things that I want to do now is I want to tell you how Gallup got to this information. And so they surveyed zillions of people, and they asked them these 12 questions. And I'm going to go through these 12 questions. And as I go through them, I want you to think about, How has this been for me in my organization? You know, in my workplace, what's been happening for me? You know, how would you answer these questions for yourself? So the first one, do I know what is expected of me at work? I mean, do you know your job duties? Your title is not what I'm talking about. It's all of the things that belong to that. Do you know what you're supposed to do on a day-to-day basis? Number two, do I have the material and equipment I need to do my work right? So that's your resources. Do you have enough money? Do you have enough people? Do you have enough knowledge? Do you have enough of the stuff that you need to do your job? 3. So again, we're going through Gallup's questions to check, are you engaged in your work? Number 3, do I have the opportunity to do what I do best every day? Do I have the opportunity to do what I do best every day? So that's your strengths and your gifts and your talent, what you're good at. Do you actually get to do that every day? Number 4, in the last 7 days, have I received recognition or praise for doing good? In the last week, has anybody noticed what you've done? Right? Number 5, does my supervisor or someone at work seem to care about me as a person? So you will feel more engaged in your job if someone seems to care about you. Number 6, again, Gallup's 12 questions for employee engagement. Is there someone at work who encourages my development? Does someone seem to notice whether you're growing or how you're growing or what you need to do to grow? Number 7, at work, do my opinions seem to count? Does anybody ask your opinion? Do they seem to care when you share your opinion? That helps you feel more engaged. Number 8, does the mission or purpose of my company make me feel my job is important? We need to know that the work we're doing is important. We feel way more engaged. We feel way more connected to our job when we feel like we are doing something worthwhile, that it's important work. Number 9, are my coworkers committed to doing quality work? You know, that's great if you show up and do your darndest every day to do the job, but does everybody else around you? Number 10, do I have a best friend at work? I always thought that one was interesting. Do I have a best friend at work? Number 11, in the last 6 months, has someone at work talked to you about your progress? And that might be a formal progress review, but it's probably more than that too. And then number 12, these again are the 12 questions that Gallup asked to survey for employee engagement. This last year, have I had the opportunity at work to learn and grow? So those are the questions that Gallup has used to question, are employees engaged in their job? Now, here's the interesting thing about the survey that Gallup did. One of the other stats that they found is that 59% of employees are more likely to be engaged when they're supervised by highly engaged managers. So if the person above you is highly engaged, you're more likely to be engaged, right? So that makes sense. If you show up for work for somebody who doesn't care about the job, why would you care? So the more engaged at the higher level, the more engaged you are. But what they also found is that 45% of people at the executive level are engaged, but only 29% of managers are. My guess is that's you. You're that sandwich person. You're in the middle. And so while the people in the higher up positions might be more engaged than you, my guess is you feel less engaged. And so if you want to feel more engaged in your job, if you want to feel more connected at work, what you need to do is shift that around, because the less you're engaged, that's wreaking havoc in your job. That's wreaking havoc on your team. The less engaged you are, the less engaged the people around you are. So I'm going to go through these questions again, because here's the thing that's really interesting. What tends to happen when we went through those questions, and think back as I read those questions for you, my guess is what you were doing was you were looking at somebody else to give you that stuff, and there was a bit of a finger pointing or blaming. Well, no, nobody hasn't done that for me. No, nobody's given me that stuff. No, nobody's helped me out in that way. And that's a victim stance. And when we stand in that victim stance, we stand back and we finger point and we blame and we look to everybody else to fix it for us. Yeah, I'm the leader, but it's not my fault that things are all screwed up. Yeah, I'm the leader, but I can't control anything. I don't have the ability to change anything. Yeah, you do. I'm going to go back through these questions, and this time we're going to shift them a little bit. Instead of thinking, what is it that somebody else has done or can do for me in regards to those questions, what can you do for yourself to increase that? Okay, here we go. Gallup's 12 questions to increase to measure employee engagement. Again, flip them as I ask them about yourself. So the first question, do I know what is expected of me at work? And if you can say no, my question is, have you asked? Have you clarified? Have you gone back and looked? Have you said, I'm a little bit confused here. There's too much for me. I don't know exactly what it is you're looking for, or maybe I disagree with what you're saying I need to do. Have you actively had a conversation to look at what are my expectations at work? Number 2. So again, we're flipping the switch here a little bit, looking at how can I take responsibility for my own engagement at work. Number 2, do I have the materials and equipment I need to do my work right? Well, have you asked for them? Do you know what they are? Have you, and I'm not talking about complaining and whining and bitching. I think we all do that at times. But have you had an honest conversation about what it is that you need at work? 2 seconds. Again, if you're finding this helpful, if you're finding that this information is important, if you know that not only you but other people need to look at employee engagement, make sure you hit the share button, make sure you tag somebody below so that they get this information as well. So number 3, at work, do I have the opportunity to do what I do best every single day? Well, here's my question. Do you know what you do best? Have you taken time to identify your strengths? Do you know what your gifts and talents are? And that requires a little bit of that inner work. That requires you to step back and really look at, what am I good at? What do I love to do? Where do I want to excel? That's that, do I know my strengths? And then have I communicated what I'm good at and said to my boss, to my team, to my role, I want to do more of this. In the last 7 days, this is number 4, have I received recognition or praise for doing good? So just a side note, I'm going to share a link below so that you can get these 12 questions as well. So if you're trying to frantically write them down, look for the link below. I'll add it when I'm done the video here so that you can get these 12 questions. But in the last 7 days, have I received recognition or praise for doing good? Here's my flip of this question. In the last 7 days, have you given recognition or praise for somebody else, for their contribution, for their effort, or for their attitude? What have you done to cultivate, to create an environment where people feel more comfortable about giving recognition, where it feels safe to give recognition, where it feels kind of normal to give recognition? Number 5, does my supervisor or at someone work seem to care about me as a person? Well, here's the flip of the question. Have you demonstrated compassion to someone else? Where have you done that for someone else? When you reach out and share that compassion, when you are compassionate with somebody else, you boost your mood. You actually release those chemicals and endorphins inside you that make you feel better. That's when you feel more engaged, and so does the other person. Number 6, and again, we're going through the employee engagement, measurement engagement questions from Gallup. Is there someone at work who encourages my development? Flip the question. What have I done to develop myself at work? Right? We cannot constantly rely on other people to know, to read our minds, to understand what it is we want. Sometimes we need to sit down and go, where do I need to grow and develop? And then communicate that to people. And sometimes you don't even need to communicate it. Take it on yourself. Make it as part of your job. I know the truth is, in many of our jobs, we have more autonomy than we give ourselves credit for. We have the ability to impact more than we allow ourselves to. Do that. Number 7, at work, do my opinions seem to count? Well, here's the flip of that question. Have you bravely and courageously shared your opinions? So many of us hold back, just don't share because we're afraid. That's that courage that I constantly harp on, that confidence in yourself. The more confident you become, the more courageous you'll be to step outside your comfort zone. The more often you share your opinion, bravely step outside the comfort zone, the more confident you'll be to share that more often. Don't wait for somebody else to ask your opinion. Share your opinion. You have a wealth of knowledge. You've been around a long time. You've got tons of experience. Your company needs that information. Your company needs that experience. Share your opinions more. Number 8, does the mission purpose of my company make me feel my job is important? Flip that question around. What is your personal mission statement? What is your personal values? Why are you here at this organization at this time? Does it connect? Because part of it is if you're not in alignment with the mission and vision of your employer, then what are you doing there? Maybe it's time to go find a different job. Maybe it's time to find more alignment. But you need to know first what your mission is. What's your vision? What are you working on? Number 9, looking at the Gallup's 12 questions for employee engagement. Are my coworkers committed to doing quality work? Flip the question. Are you committed to doing quality work? Don't finger point, don't blame, don't always be looking at what the next guy's doing. Look at your own place. Mother Teresa said if we would just all sweep our own steps, the world would be a better place. That's probably not quite exactly the way she said it, but you get the point. Are you sweeping your own step? Are you worried about doing a good job yourself? Number 10, do I have a best friend at work? Many women in leadership are lonely. Many women in organizations feel that they are isolated and alone. Flip the question. What have you done to reach out? Both for yourself and when you've noticed that somebody else is struggling. You know, us women are horrible, I have to be honest with you, and you already know this. We will talk about other people. We will gossip about other people. We will notice how crabby, bitchy, annoying, irritating that other person is. But will we go up to them and say, hey, looks like you're having a bad day. What can I do to help? You know, we know that everybody else is going through the same stuff that we're going through in life, whether it's your kids or your health or your marriage or your finances or your mother or your dog. We all are going through it. Be a friend to somebody else. When you reach out, again, not only does it make you feel better, but it creates that environment that feels better. Number 11, in the last 6 months, has someone at work talked to you about your progress? Again, flip it around. Have I looked at my own progress? We develop goals in organizations because that's what we're supposed to do. But what about your own goals? Where are you in alignment with what you want to do? Have you looked? Am I progressing? Am I developing? Do I know what I wanted to work on this year? Do I know what courses I wanted to take? Do I know what skills I wanted to develop? And how am I doing on that? Have you looked at your own growth and development? And then, number 12, employee engagement. This last year, have I had opportunities at work to learn and grow? Again, have you created opportunities at work to learn and grow? Gallup asked these questions to see if employees were engaged, and a lot of the focus has been, how do we increase the engagement of our employees? I'm tired of having people around me that don't want to be here. My question to you is, do you want to be there? And what have you done to increase your engagement? These questions, and again, I'm going to put a link below so that you can get these questions in a PDF. When you flip them and you ask them about yourself and how you've taken the lead in these, leadership is not about waiting for somebody else to do something. Leadership is about inspiring those people around you. You inspire people around you when you take the lead, when you initiate that change. So make a comment below about which one of those questions, it sort of sparked you to go, wow, I need to take some initiative there. You know, which question was it that reminded you that you've been waiting for somebody else to do something, but you can do something as well? Because that's what I want you to do. I want you to think about, if I'm looking to engage the people around me and, work in a place that I actually want to work at, what am I doing to change that? That's employee engagement. So go through these questions. Again, I'll put a link below where you can get the PDF of the questions. Go through the questions one by one and ask yourself, what am I doing to increase this? Where can I impact this? Where can I take initiative, responsibility? Where can I lead? Where can I inspire my team and the people around me? When I'm making this difference, when I'm boosting myself and feeling more engaged, I'm creating an environment where everybody else around me is more engaged. Remember, studies show the more engaged the manager is, the more engaged the employees are. Boost your own engagement. Take initiative for your own engagement. One of the ways to do that is to join the 5-day challenge that I have next week. So if you haven't heard about that, 5 days to conquer that love-hate relationship with your job. Again, I'll put the link below. It's free. Click below so that you get the 12 questions, go through them. And again, share this if you think it's helpful, if you think that there are other people who need to hear this as well. Share this privately if there's somebody you know who's struggling themselves, that are actively disengaged in their job. I'll go through those 3 again just so that we can wind up looking at them. Gallup has realized, I'm trying to find my page. Gallup study has shown 70% of the workforce is basically disengaged. Only 33% of people are actively engaged, which means they're excited to be at work, they want to be at work, they put in more than they need to. The rest don't. The rest show up, barely put in the effort required to do the job, and they check out most of the time that they're there. And then there's that other little smaller group who's like stirring the pot, making things crappy for everybody else. That's that whole 70% of workforces. If we want to feel like we're changing our workforce, if we want to change things around, we need to take that 70% and get them more engaged in their job. That starts with you becoming more engaged. Do the things you need to do to increase your engagement in work. If you have any questions, pop them in below for me right now as we wind up, because I'll answer any questions if there is any. But think about, what is it that I can be doing to increase my own happiness, engagement, enjoyment, connection to my job? And that takes some of that inner reflective work. That takes time for you to step back and really think about, why am I here? What am I trying to do? What's the impact I'm trying to have? Where am I trying to grow and develop myself? What is it that I'm looking for in the people around me? You need to do that work. When you do that work, you'll then turn around and come out more engaged, more excited, more proud of both yourself as a leader, the work you're doing, and of the place you work for and the team you work with. But you got to stop and think about things. You got to do that reflective work. You have to ask yourself, where can I do more? Where can I take responsibility for changing my connection to work? So again, if you have any questions, pop them in below. Make sure that when I'm done here, you have joined the Confident Women Leaders group, if you're not already in there, that you get the PDF with the 12 questions, reflect about how you can change that, and then join the 5-day challenge so that you can reconnect with your job, reignite that passion for your work, conquer that love-hate relationship that you have with your job, and not only become more engaged yourself, but engage and inspire those people around you. Thanks for listening, guys. Again, I appreciate it, and share this if it's helpful, because if you want to work in an environment that is a better environment, that's happier, that's more engaged, then you got to change that for people around you as well. So make sure that you're doing your part, not pointing fingers, waiting for somebody else. Leadership is about inspiring people. That starts with you.